Oracle State Park started out as the Canali Ranch, and the Canali family were one of the earliest cattle ranching families to Oracle, came out about the turn of the century, 1900. The family here were brothers and sisters. Ultimately, the last sister passed away in 1976 and donated what remained of the ranch. They had sold off most of it to the mining company in the 50s, and what was left was 4,000 acres, and that was donated to be a wildlife refuge. So that became part of the Arizona State Park system in 1986. In 2001, we opened to the public as a day-use park with picnic and hiking trails, and the historic Canali Ranch House, which a lot of visitors like to come in and walk through and learn about this family that donated this property.
This was one of the Canali brothers wanted a house that was 4 stories on the side of a hill, looking out over the hills and down into the San Pedro River Valley.
The Canali Ranch House is on the National Register of Historic Places. It was built about 1929 to 1933. And as you walk towards the ranch house, you may be surprised to find that it's much larger once you walk into the house than what you see as you approach. In the living of the ranch house, you'll see paintings on the wall done by Lee Canali. He was one of the cowboy brothers. And one of the interesting stories about the paintings is that Lee Canali had been in World War I. He was first stationed in the Philippines and later Siberia, and came back after the war having suffered from nerve gas damage and had a nervous head shake the rest of his life. And so he was encouraged by a friend of the family to take up painting to calm his nerves. He was discouraged from having any kind of formal training. She said it would ruin him as an artist. Some of it has been compared to de Grazia's work, which is impressive.
It's magnificent, really. The house was really beautiful, and it's amazing to think that people could come out here in the wilderness and do this kind of thing.
Since I grew up here, I knew the brothers and sisters. I used to see them come into church, and I knew my grandfather worked for them, and I knew they had this great place. It was very gracious of them to leave us this area, this land, and so many people get to enjoy it. And now my granddaughter even gets to come and enjoy it, so it's just, you know, it's just really nice.
Your wreath does not have to be this shape. It can be larger, it can be smaller, it can be heart-shaped, it's your wreath. We offer educational programming to the public and have a calendar of events throughout the year showing different opportunities for people to come up and see programs, guided tours, and special events that highlight education about the geology, about plants, about animals, about ecology, about archaeology. What we have here are grinding stones, ancient grinding stones, mortars, manos, metates, all evidence of the Hohokam culture. And Hohokam means the ancient ones, the ones that came before. There are people that came and left before the Apaches arrived. There's such an interesting history to this area, even before the Canalis. So there's an evidence that people have been using this land for thousands and thousands of years. And that's one of the things that makes environmental education fun out here, is getting to share these stories. In 2014, Oracle State Park received the designation as an International Dark Sky Park. And so what that means is we've added on to our environmental education mission and recognized the dark skies as a limited resource to be protected.
The Oracle Dark Sky Committee applied to the International Dark Sky Association in April of 2014. After submitting a lengthy process of education and photographs and documentation, we were designated the 20th International Dark Sky Park in the world, and the first International Dark Sky Park in the Arizona State Park system.
And we have a section of the Arizona Trail that goes through the park. We're the only state park in Arizona with a section of the Arizona Trail, which starts in Mexico, ends in Utah. This is high desert oak grassland, and it's a transition zone between oak woodlands. The highest point in the park is about 4,600 feet, and it drops to about 3,700 feet, which is desert scrubland, desert grassland. And so those vegetative zones join and create a diversity of vegetation and then wildlife habitat. One of the prominent features is the granite boulder piles that you'll see with very large crystals, and so we do programming about the geology here.
First time in the park, and we had a great time. The house itself was quite spectacular as far as the way they lived back in the 20s and 30s, and just the architecture and what they came up with, and the surrounding areas and the views are hard to beat.